Hello and welcome to Anatomy of Us. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
Yo guys, what's up? My name is Seth Studley. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Today we're talking to John Delony, Dr. John Delony, and his brand new book, Own Your Past, Change Your Future. And we jam out on this stuff because it's talking about high accountability, fix your crap, own your stuff, and then move forward to create a life, a family, a relationship, a career that you love, that you want to live. So he's pretty cool. We talk about hunting and stuff, and this is not the first time he's been on the show. He's chill. We love him. You guys are going to love him too. So check it out.
All right, you're going to love it. Enjoy.
Dr. John Delony. What's up, my man?
What up?
Yo, so how's it going out there in Nashville?
We're rocking, man.
Awesome.
I for real need you to connect me with your artist. I've got to get some skulls behind me, man.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
I know a guy. Well, I know a
It's
gal.
actually a lady. It's
Yeah,
not a
so,
guy.
Yeah.
So
How are you two? Y'all doing great?
yeah.
We are.
Yeah, doing good.
Raising puppies,
raising
coaches.
puppies, doing some stuff, doing coaching. Hanging.
What kind of dogs are you raising?
Australian Shepherds. I'm obsessed.
Don't even
Do you
ask.
love
Okay.
Australian Shepherds?
With all of my heart. And when's your next litter due?
They're here right now. I could fly you one. They're literally ready to go as of yesterday.
Let's talk via text message when this whole thing's over. People don't want to hear us talk about your dogs, but
I am
They're
coming
the
out there again
best.
to Nashville end of March. So
we could
sneak
bring
one in
you
a
one.
suitcase, yo. That'd be fantastic.
I've done it
Awesome.
before.
We've done it
not,
before.
Well, not in a suitcase, but
It's not. It's old school. That's old hat for us.
it was a carry-on. Yeah. So, Delony, why don't you introduce yourself for folks who are maybe new to our show or don't know what you got going on? We know and we love it. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about.
Let me introduce myself. What's that song? Let me introduce myself. My name is Yeah, remember that?
Oh, God. I do. Yeah.
My name is John, and for about the last 20 years, I've worked in colleges and universities, and as dean of students, and also working in housing and all kind of different jobs. But I was a high school teacher, and then I also worked with police officers and first responders after hours to do crisis response, to show up and do death notifications and sit with people when the worst of the worst could have happened. And then a few years ago, I gave, 2 years ago now, was given a talk to about 1,000 people at this event, and somebody here at Ramsey Solutions saw him and said, I want to hire that guy. We need a mental health person. And so for the last few years, I've just been writing and speaking and doing my radio show, talking to people when the wheels are falling off their lives too. Same stuff, just in a different medium.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love. We all three have the same heart, man. There's so many people who are hurting and struggling.
Mhm.
And how can we set up the right people and systems and support for those folks just so they can make the next right decision?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool to see you speak live. And it was funny because and I remember you even talking about it. Like you felt kind of uncomfortable or something. And it was like, I didn't know who you were, but I had seen you at the event, and then you spoke, and it was like the most impactful
Hold on,
thing
what event?
ever.
It was the Ramsey Influencer event. Yeah.
And I don't even know, February of, I have no idea when it
2
was, but
years ago?
anyway,
Mhm.
it was so impactful. Then you told the story about being on the phone with the father who was trying to find his kid, and you're on the phone with the police officer in the other ear, and like finding out that the kid had actually committed suicide. Is that what it was?
He had taken his life. He had died by suicide. Yeah. And then on the other ear, the dad, they had turned the phone on. So we've been tracking his phone, and he had turned his phone off. And then when the police officer turned the phone back on, when they found the body in the car, they turned the phone back on, and the father immediately called me and was screaming, cheering, like, we found him, he's alive, we found him.
Yeah.
And I was cheering too, because I'm a dad too. I mean, I was I was jumping up and down in my office. I was I was just a nerd, but I was so excited. And then my office phone rang, so I grabbed it. And I told the dad in this ear, hold on a second. And I grabbed my office phone, and it was the state trooper telling me they found the body of my student. And yes, I'm sitting there with the phones on both ears. And that was a holy moment for me. That was that was one of those reverberating moments that will last with me forever.
Right.
Man, I didn't know we were going to talk about that, but being in the mental health world, and I've been a therapist for, 13 years or so.
You always say 13 years, even though it's like every year you still say the same amount.
I don't know.
Do the math.
It's just like in my mind, it's like,
it's
like that
13.
meme, it's like, this picture of this car will always be, from my childhood, but it was like 50 years ago now or something like that. So I don't know, a skewed version of time. But I remember I got so burned out. I still do some consulting stuff with homeless folks and
certain populations, but just so burned out, man. It's just so heavy. Like it takes a different kind of person to, and that's not being weird or bragging or anything. It's like, why do I do that? I'm like, well, I feel like I have to. Like part of it is like, I'm a helper, do you ever feel that way as a mental health person?
And yeah, pathologically so. I that's something I've got to watch in myself is I can sometimes use other people's pain to prop myself up. And I'm going to go get in the middle of somebody else's stuff, or I'm going to get in the middle of something my wife's going through. I'm going to jump in the middle of that because she needs my help. And if I don't feel that sense of somebody needs me, then my instinct, it's not a great response, but it's to pout like, ooh. And that, yeah. So I have a pathological need to run into the building when the building's on fire.
Yeah.
It's not always the smart, wise thing to do.
Yeah. But those people that you were helping are very thankful.
That's right. That's right.
So it's like,
but Seth, I think culturally, I think every one of us is, especially the last couple of years, man, has felt that need to sit there and just stare at our stupid phones all day long, waiting for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I think we've all got addicted to what's the next worst thing that's going to come, right? And there's something about just putting that stuff down and choosing to. I'm not going to enter into that space because I'm not going to be of service to this interaction.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a thought, like you were talking about, the sort of the role that the thing that it does to your mind to be on the metaphoric double ends of the phone there, right? With the father and then the police officer, and then your comment about what type of person it takes to do this work. And I would love to sort of, dive a little bit deeper into what has this work done for you and how you see humanity. I know that's a really odd way to frame it.
Oh, I love that question.
Right. The work that you do is such clearly to me, as I see the titles of your new book and the title of your life, like as I look at you do your work, it's very clear to me that you're trying to expose something that you've seen in your line of work. And so I would love to know, what does all of these experiences show to you about humanity, and what does it teach you?
I really was, and again, a steady diet of Pantera and Slayer over a decade will do this to you, right?
Yes.
I was a believer that most people were inherently selfish and greedy and out for their own. And when you look at something purely philosophically, when you read a lot of Nietzsche and you read a lot of old stuff, and intellectually that makes sense. And then you look at some of the mass atrocities that have happened throughout history and you say, that's human nature. And what I've come to believe is that's 100% false. And you show up night after night in the middle of the night. My phone, the deal I had with the police department in the last city I lived in, I had a deal with the police department, and I would just get a text message on my phone and it would say 1087 and an address. It's just a home and the police code for there is a dead body. I don't know if it's a 2-year-old or a 98-year-old. Occasionally I would get some, a heads up like, hey, this is a 45-year-old woman but you show up and you sit with people when their world is, as they knew it, is now over. Everything's in ash and you are the first little tiny speck of light. And people are inherently good and they show up, and it's given me a lot of compassion over the last 2 years, just the mess we've all been going through. Man, whether you're on this side of this debate or that side of the debate, or you're angry about this, angry about that, I know enough about how brain science and trauma works to know that, man, people are just scared. And when we know people are scared, we don't mind hugging them. When we think people are being jerks, then we put our fists up. And so it has given me just time after time after again, when somebody's got their fists up, I'm going to lean in and I'll give you a hug, man. If you hit me, I'm going to walk away, but I'm going to lean in with a hug, man, because and it's a metaphorical hug. I'm not a big hugger, but it's, man, people are just hurting. And when we're hurting, we don't make good decisions. We say things that we don't really mean or that we wish we could have back. And it's made me a lot more graceful.
I love that.
Yeah. It's and I know
a lot more gentle, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, gentle. And you just don't fall off a log. Most people don't fall off a log and go, okay, I'm going to be gentle today and like super empathic and understanding. You have to cultivate that, right? And I want to talk a little bit about.
Dude, you got to practice it. Yes. And I still love my MMA, and I still love shooting my guns and going hunting, and I still love working out every morning. I love all those things, those hard snap into a Slim Jim Jocko stuff. I love it. And it provides a context that makes me so gentle and way less likely to run my mouth when I don't know what I'm talking about, and to be much more compassionate, right? Yeah. It works together. It doesn't feel like it would work together, but it absolutely does.
It absolutely does for people who are aware, because, you know, you got these like hyper masculine dudes are like, yeah, let's do this every day. You know, and just like,
it's so dumb. Yeah.
Ridiculous kind of thing. And then the dudes who are like trying to balance that out and like walking that. And I have found, so yeah, I like super masculine stuff too. Like, okay, fighting, guns, like deer guts everywhere. It doesn't matter, right? I love it,
like
right?
a Gwar concert.
No, okay, so yeah.
Deer guts everywhere.
I love Gwar. That's like, yeah, that's the name of a record.
Yeah, deer guts. It probably is actually. But okay, so let me tell you this story. So we were talking about hunting before we got on this call and stuff, and there was, so out here in Washington, obviously it rains a ton, right? And I usually go hunting alone. So anything I get, I got to drag back, you know, a mile and a half, 2 miles just by myself. So I try to make sure that I'm in shape to do that. But this last time, I got a couple deer this time, but my first deer, about a mile and a half from the truck, and it was pouring down rain. I'm not just talking about like a soggy kind of Seattle mist thing. It was dumping, right? Mm. And it was like, you talk about feeling alive. I was soaked to the bone. It was late October, so it was chilly, you know, carrying this deer on my shoulder, dragging it, falling down, you know, over logs and stuff. And I was like, this is living. It was so amazing, right?
Yeah.
Just like living in that moment, and then going like not being hyper masculine and having intention and being able to be soft. Like, oh, I can go from that to a literal like kind of fruity meditation with chill music that I recorded myself and like made.
You meditate to yourself? Wow.
Well, it's this cool attraction affirmation thing. And I put it over a really cool track, you know, and it's just like, hey, this is what you want. This is what kind of man you are.
Ah, okay. Got you.
We are the future of technology and mental health all rolled into one. We meditate to ourselves.
To yourselves.
It's not to yourselves. It's just like this affirmation kind of thing. But going from that to that and feeling super good about it, it's like, man, that feels great. I'm connected to myself. I'm connected to God. I'm connected to my wife and kids and family. And it's worth $100, right? But I'm saying that because I want to talk about your book, right? And so let's just dive straight into it because there's a lot of things that I do that you talk about in that book. And I want people to go buy the book, go read the book and do this stuff, because guess what? It is absolutely worth it. It will make you a happier human, a happier husband, a happier wife, a happier person, and more productive in all those areas.
Find that balance of hunting and deer guts and gentleness.
Yeah, I mean, chapter 5, deer guts. Yeah, let's talk about that.
That's exactly right.
That's our favorite chapter. Right. So tell us all about it.
Well, I love that you say that. We've really, the book's 10 years in the making. It's a response to this side of culture, which is saying what you feel is everything. Mm-hmm. It's quote unquote your truth. It's your reality, and it is all that matters. And the world needs to bend and wave to how you feel, moment by moment, hour by hour, week by week, year by year. And then the response, which I fully understand, and this is madness. And then the equally mad has been the response of, forget your feelings. None of that matters. That's stupid. You're an idiot. Just crush it, kill it, grind it, drag it out, and like lift up the deer in the rain and be like, ugh.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do is chart a third path, which I think most of us are on, which is, man, you gotta own what you're feeling. If you skip over that stuff, your body will try to solve that for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And you end up lying to the people around you. You end up, you've heard me say this, you end up on the couch 4 inches from each other, but you're 4,000 miles away from each other. And you're both on each other's devices and whatever. You got to own it. And then you have to say this magic word. Now what? Like, what am I going to do now? And as I was a dean of students before I got into the counseling stuff, and you're an actual therapist. I'm not an actual therapist. I just pretend to be one on the radio. What I found in my work in higher ed, especially, was an increasingly tighter circle around this happened to you, whether it was some sort of ridiculous atrocity that happened to you as a kid, big T traumas, little T traumas, systemic traumas, which they all exist. They're all super real. But it became this limiting, this is all you're ever going to be because this happened to you. This is your identity. This is who you are. And so let us take care of you. And if we don't take care of you, then you're just going to be stuck. And so we shifted from this empowering language, which was beautiful, saying, hey, whoa, this happened to you. You got to call it out. Somebody abused you. You're the wrong, people treat you evilly because of the way you look or the way, whatever, right? And it became this empowering. So since that's the case, you just sit there and hang tight and we'll take care of you. And I increasingly was frustrated by saying, no, you've got so much, as you know, like it's the old Rage Against the Machine, like you got to take the power back. This happened. And now what? Now you can be, and so nobody has let people go free, let people run. And that's the point of this book, is to say, yes, this happened. So the first half of the book is calling out, here's, man, the world shifted underneath us and it's a train wreck. And here's what we can do about it on the other side.
Yeah. Everything that you just said, I could talk about forever. Like,
yeah.
And when you mentioned the Rage lyric, take the power back. I thought about, I forget what song. It's another Rage song, but it's what better place than here? What better time than now? Right?
Yes.
Like actually go, okay, this thing happened. This is the reality, right? It's like, okay, this is the reality. I know it. Other people around me are saying it too. I have to do something about it. I have to own it. And I know we're on the Jocko train and extreme ownership and all that stuff, but those like books and podcasts and stuff that we have just consumed rabidly. Is that a word?
Ravenously?
A lot. It's like a
We
ton,
listened
man.
to, I don't know.
We drooled and then we ate them. It was awesome.
Yeah. We just eating that up and going, oh man, okay, we did this in our own lives. And now we help other people to do it in their lives. And some people, honestly, unfortunately go, no, I don't like what you're saying. I'm going back to,
Right.
I'm like, okay, well, Dr. Phil, well, how's that working out for you? Right.
That's right.
I had a conversation.
Let's look around, brother. Let's look around.
Right.
What we're doing isn't working.
Right.
Like, can we just say that?
Yeah.
And let's start from there.
Right.
It is so hard for people.
Working.
Yeah, it's so hard for people to hear that. I mean, it's like,
No, it is.
Yeah. It's like the
It's not
most
working.
offensive
Stop.
thing that people can, as we do that in coaching, people are like, oh, there's like a audible guffaw that it's not, right?
So talking about the difference between therapy and like mental health and then coaching, like in coaching, we take an ultra empathic approach.
Oh yeah.
And then like kick people's ass.
Right.
There you go. That's right.
Awesome.
That's right. That's why I love being a mental health guy on a radio show. I can say all the things that therapists are thinking, but don't say, right?
Right.
You can actually say it out loud. Yeah.
Right.
And I think I think in many ways, that's why coaching is crushing mental health care right now, because there's so many barriers to becoming a therapist. And some of those boundaries are really important and we need them. But also coaches can say, hey, stop. Take a week off of the weed, or stop talking to your wife like that. Quit. Right. Instead of, well, how does that make you feel? You know what I mean? You can actually say stop. And I think we often need to hear that. I sure do.
Two of the most growth moments in my life is when a pastor / therapist looked at me straight in the eye, and he was an older dude. And this is when we were going through a hard time. And he was just like gave me a scowl and said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I felt like that small, and that's exactly what I needed. And then another time when we hired a coach, he did the same thing. He's like, bro,
both times that
what
felt
is
great,
this?
Because I was next to you.
It felt great to her because she's like, finally, he's got it. But like as a guy, and women need this too, right? We all need that person, hired or not hired, someone we respect, we trust, and we will listen to be like, what are you doing, man?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This isn't working. Cut that crap out, right?
I want to make a comment on your book, though, really quickly. So
hold on. First of all, the name of the book, Own Your Past, Change Your Future.
Oh, there you go.
I love.
Thank you.
I love it.
We all do. We all love it.
We all do, which we'll dive in. But what were you going to say?
Well, so one of the things I think is amazing, and I cannot remember what book I recently heard this in, but you were talking a minute ago about how people, first of all, we're all kind of like lying to ourselves just a little bit to make it feel like everything's okay, everything's fine, right? It's like that meme with the guy sitting in the fire. I'm fine, right?
Right.
But what I love about this is that you're owning your past and you're changing your future, which it implies a choice of growth. And it's very clear, like you need to do something about it. There's an action. And I read something where they were talking about how the old model of therapy was always, like you were saying, what's the problem? It was problem-based. I was abused. I was this, I was whatever. And people would focus on the trauma, the problem forever, literally never. Like a therapist would not be like, oh, well, what's the solution now? And they discovered that focusing on health, wellness, well-being, being centered, being balanced, healing, joy was what made people change. And as silly as that sounds, as like duh as that sounds, people don't understand that. And so I love that you're saying, like, I don't know, it's like all implied in the title. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, let's dive into the 5 steps here. We have some notes. In the first,
let's call this out first. I hate with all of my guts. And I hope you guys don't have this. I hate when people are like, change your life in 4 easy steps, or the 5 things to, that gives me like, makes me want to vomit, because life is too complex. It's hard. Right. I've seen that work in like 2 or 3 areas. One of them, which is Dave's right here. Like here, if you want to get out of debt, here, follow this. It works every time. Like there's so rare that those things work. But what ended up happening was if I just like reverse engineered all the conversations I have with people on a daily basis, these 5 things work like an infinity loop. And you end up on one of these at some point all of the time, and they never stop happening. So these things are like a cycle. They're going to keep happening and keep happening and keep happening. And it was at the end of the book that the woman who's editing this for me calls and says, you realize you just created a path here. I was like, nope, just trying to help people have a little bit better day. And so we actually added this at the end and looped back around as these things kind of laid themselves out in front of us. It was pretty neat.
Yeah. That's amazing. Tell us, what are the 5 things? Tell us about them.
Hold on. First of all, I agree with what you're saying. There is no, hey, like lose 1,000 pounds and get ripped as heck in 6 days kind of thing. I mean, there are, but those are just people that take your money and then, go away and retire kind of thing. And we all want a quick fix like that, right? We all want that. Oh, can I get ripped in 6 days, or can I?
You know what else we want? We want a forever fix.
Yes.
And there is no day that I can spend in the gym that's going to be so great that I never have to work out again. It's not real. There's no great night of sex with my wife that we never have to sleep together. Like that was it. Like we're good for, you know what I mean? That doesn't exist. And we want there to be this Super Bowl moment for ourselves that it's all over. And it's not. You got to get up the next day and do it again. Then you got to do it again. And so we all want this quick fix, but we want a forever fix too. And it just doesn't exist.
Is that how you pitched it to your wife? Look, we can't fix once. You got to get up the next day and do it again. You got to.
Dude, she's like the Matrix. She's just like, boom, and it just,
just goes right past her.
That's hilarious.
I love it. But I super agree with what you're saying. So you have like 5 steps repeated over and over, and it is a cycle. It's like seasons, right? There's not just like a forever summer. There's always a variance in weather, in temperature and stuff. And that has a purpose that helps perpetuate life and just the whole thing forward.
Can I say something about that? Life is seasons. Like the trees grow even in the winter. They're dormant, but they're still growing. And I hate when people...
They're still alive.
They're still alive. And it's, I don't know, I have lots of feelings about that because life is cyclical. All things.
Well, when we have winter, we don't say that summer's broken.
Right.
And so when we have days that we don't feel like going to the gym, it's not because, sometimes it is, but often it's not because we're losers or we are pathetic. Right. It's because our body's saying, hey, I need a break, right? Mm-hmm. And if you can get in tune with yourself, awesome. And there's days I don't feel like going to the gym, and that's because I need to go, right? I need to go. That was this morning. I woke up. I just got back from a flight late last night. I didn't want to go. I needed to get up, right? Because if I didn't, it was going to be donut time. And then the next 2, then, you know how that goes. But okay, so the first thing is important. We were born into stories. And so there's stories that we were born into. And these are the ones that our church told us about what you're worth and what women are worth. These are ones like, this is what a quote unquote normal relationship looks like. This is quote unquote what love looks like. We were born into these stories, and their cultural stories and their family stories. And then there were the stories that we were told. And this is when your 3rd grade teacher said this one thing, or that boyfriend of yours looked at you and said, you're not pretty, whatever the stories we were told. And unfortunately, those stories that we were born into and the stories we were told become the stories we tell ourselves. And those become insidious, because if you look at the psychological research, which is hilarious. We all think we're pretty smart. At the end of the day, even if we hate ourselves, we think I'm a better driver than most of y'all, right? Or I'm better at. We all think we're pretty smart. And when we tell ourselves these stories and they just sit on a loop over and over and over, he's the problem. They're the problem. We don't like them because they're different. They love like this. And so they're, whatever the thing is, it loops and loops. And we start to believe ourselves, and more insidiously, and we've talked about this offline, our bodies respond to those stories. They spin up every time. There's a threat, there's a threat, there's a threat. And so we may be moving on, but our body drops a pin in that one and says, they're dangerous, they're dangerous, they're dangerous. And we only have one danger response system, man. And the analogy I use in the book is, if you have a clog in your sink and you dump Drano in it once every 3 or 4 years, it'll burn that clog out and you can move on. If you just wake up every day and dump Drano in your sink, in short order, it will eat through your pipes and you'll have a mess on your hands. Mm-hmm. Man, the way we live, we don't acknowledge in these stories. We don't own these stories that we've been told, that we're just living over and over and over. And our bodies are fighting and fleeing and fighting and fleeing all day. And man, and then you can just look at the arc of the ACEs literature. Seth, you and I have talked about this. Oh, yeah. And we just get strokes and cancer and heart disease and addiction, you just die, right? And at some point, number one, you've got to own these stories. This is what somebody told me. This is what limiting things I'm thinking of. And then the second thing is you've got to acknowledge reality. So that's the CBT part of this. You got to look at this story and say, is this true? I got to demand evidence from this thing. Am I really too fat to be loved? Am I really a bad lover and I'm unredeemable, right? Am I really, you have to take ownership. Like, I'm healthy. It's the story I tell myself. I kind of look in the mirror without a shirt on and be like, are we healthy? Right. And I did that the other day. Not doing great. So I have to acknowledge reality. Mm-hmm. And then this is important to me. You have to have a season of grieving and forgiveness. And this isn't one of the steps. This is just an is. And grief is simply one little thing. It's the gap between what we hoped for and what we thought was going to happen and what actually happened. Mm. And it could be as small as, I want to go eat burgers tonight. And my wife's like, nope, we're eating Mexican food. I just got to say that out loud, or I got to have it in my head. I want to go eat burgers tonight, but I like Mexican food. And now my body will go, all right, cool. We're back in control. Otherwise, it will just stew and stew and stew. I'll be a little bit shorter with my son. I'll be turn my body a little bit away from my wife. And now I'm doing this, right? I'm creating this. Or grief can be, man, I really wanted that job. I really thought we were going to stay together forever. I didn't think he was going to die. And you got to own that crap. And we have a culture that just wants to blow by all that stupid stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you got to get connected, and then you got to do the hard. That's when you get into the Jocko work, right? You got to change your thoughts. You got to change your actions. You got to go do stuff, and you got to think new things, right? So that's it. Over and over and over for the rest of our lives. That's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's seasonal. And I want to maybe camp out on some of those, and maybe all of them, because they're so good. I mean, so many listeners can hear just one of those and go, wait, I haven't done that. And maybe that's why I feel like she doesn't love me, or why, I have a bad relationship with my kid, or why I hate my job because I never spoke my truth and went out there and you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully someone will hear one of these things and go, I'm doing this right now. I'm taking ownership and going to do it right now. So owning your stories, the acknowledge reality is the biggest part. And I think so many couples, because obviously it's a marriage show, so many couples go, oh man, I'm not happy, and it's your fault. Or we're just living our lives, like you say, we're 4 inches apart on the couch, but 4,000 miles away. We have to actually go, this is the landscape. It's like looking at your bank account, thinking there's, $9,000 in there. Oh yeah, we got plenty of money. Go to Nordstrom's, go shopping, but you go, oh, wait a minute. That's $9. There's not as many zeros. So actually acknowledge reality. No, we aren't going to rack up the credit card. We can't do that anymore. I got to go put some pants on and get a job, a second or third job or something like that. We have to take ownership of where we are. And that's, if we've had a lot of coaching couples and a lot of listeners do that and go, yeah, or emails like, hey, my marriage is the worst. I just realized that yesterday. What the heck do I do? Kind of thing. Right?
Yeah.
So I want them to grab the book and do this. And so the next step after acknowledge your reality, lay shake some truth on it. I talk about, like a salt shaker, shake some truth on this whole thing. You got to shake truth on it because you can't live out that lie because you're going to get more of what you don't want. And that doesn't work. Right.
And here's the thing. Most people run from that moment, myself included.
Right.
You recognize. So here's a good example. I work here. Like I take 1,000 pictures a month with people. And I noticed when they would post them on the internets, and I'm still trying to figure out how that stuff works. I smile like this. I don't show any teeth in my smile. And I thought to myself, did you know when I was 16 years old, I was dating a girl who was, she was incredible. I had a major crush on her. She was a super knockout. She was so kind. And one day we were walking along doing something and she said, "You would be so cute if your teeth weren't so yellow and wonky." And fast forward, I take pictures for a living now. And that story is still cycling it through me that if you smile, everyone will go, ugh. And here's the reality. It's not true. I got to acknowledge that. And this is where it gets hard. Now I've got to go about forcing myself. I've got to practice smiling as though I'm enjoying other people's company instead of like, I'm at a proctology exam, right? I've got to act like I'm enjoying this. And I got to practice that. It means I'm going to be uncomfortable for a while. And it's hard and I don't like it, especially when I'm tired, especially when I'm grumpy, especially when I only have $9 in my checking account. It's so easy just to roll back to, they're all looking at this anyway, screw them. And it's hard to keep your eye on that ball. So
where does the growth happen? In your experience, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, where does the growth happen?
There is no growth. There is no life change. And I got to say this, like, be real clear about this. I am a lifelong Texan through and through. Like, we made up the myth, right? We made it up. There is no growth. There is no sustainable life change in isolation. And so after you acknowledge this reality, oh my gosh, I got to change the way I eat. I got to change the way I talk to my wife. I've got to start leaning and practicing sensuality and desire again, because I got all about raising kids and following lists and routines. And I forgot my sexualized self. I got to start practicing that. You cannot make those changes alone. You've got to get connected to a gang, a group. That's why what y'all are doing is so magic. Creating coaching opportunities for people to plug into and say, I need someone to walk alongside me. And we don't know how to be friends. There's a whole big chunk of this book on how to be friends. That's a section. And I even laugh, like, this is ridiculous that I'm writing this. And this is where we all are. I don't know how to have friends anymore. I don't know how to make friends anymore. I don't know how to say something stupid and then ask for forgiveness. We don't know how to do it anymore. So we just scroll and thumb it, right? And you cannot do anything without getting connected. So you can get the right workout program. You can get the right meditation app. If you don't have people that you're checking in with that are walking alongside you, whether you love them, they're your best friends, they're a coaching, they're a therapist, whatever, it's not going to stick. It's just not.
Right. I love that because there are so many opportunities. It's like, it is ridiculous that you had to write a chapter. It's like a manual, like how to be normal. How to be normal. Right. Oh, well, I forgot because I've been on my phone for the last 10 years, But
here, it's where we're at. It's where we're at.
Well, yeah.
When I was working at a law school, I would come home and my wife, was a star researcher. She's a professor. She taught teachers. So she taught teachers how to teach kids how to read. But she was a pedagogy expert. And I would come home and whine and complain. These students can't even do this and this. And finally, one day she said, here's the thing, quit your job or start teaching them the skills that they don't have. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm a teacher. That's my job. Right. Yeah. And so I can whine and complain that we don't know how to make friends anymore, or we can just start having honest conversations about here's how to have friends when you're 40 or when you're 32. Here's how to be friends with your spouse and how to go have other friends too. Right.
My dad used to say something when I was growing up, and now I'm like, wow, that was like knockout wisdom. That was great. And he always said to have a friend, to make friends, you got to be a friend.
Yes.
It's so simple. It's like, okay, if you want friends, be worth being friends to. Like, reach out to people, text your buddy. Go first.
Right?
I mean,
people at your house.
Yeah. Lead with vulnerability. Like, okay, do this. And sometimes I promise you, I think that we need new friends because me and Melanie are always like reaching out, checking in on people and doing this and doing this. I'm like, are we weird?
We're thought leaders, not weird.
I know that's just being silly. But that to your point, getting connected, right? Yeah. And there are 8 million ways to get connected. You can do Toastmasters. You can go to church. You can not go to church. You can do this. You can like have actual real live meetups with friends that you made on Facebook that all you know them from is a Zoom call. You go, hey, we've been chilling for like 2 years through the pandemic. Stuff's cool now. Let's meet up in Dallas. Let's do this thing or whatever. Like I
think Dallas was through the pandemic before it even started. I don't know if it was ever real in Dallas. That's a whole other conversation.
They need your second point. Acknowledge reality, right? No.
That was good.
I'm just kidding. I know you're from Texas. Yeah. I love Texas.
Hey, man, truth hurts. I'm acknowledging the reality.
Right.
I'm owning the stories.
So we have done this. We've put ourselves out there. Like I did Toastmasters a long time ago because I was scared of public speaking, right? I was like, okay, let's do this and make friends there and join different mastermind groups. And we kicked off our own mastermind groups this year. In fact, badasshusband.com, that's a plug, right? And what it is, it's a group because we're the sum of the 5 people we hang out with the most, right? So for you, and I know that people you hang out with, and for us, we want to hang out with people who are up here, who have done stuff, who have wisdom, who have experiences, and want to talk about it because I can learn, and plus we can give back too. But the fact of getting connected, what if somebody's listening to this for the first time and going, man, that is me to the T, all over the place. I've been that way for the last 5 years. All I know is people on Instagram. And who knows if those are those real names? What do I do? Where can I start? What do I do? How the heck do I do this? Because I'm scared to death.
It's an awesome question. So yesterday I was in Atlanta speaking at an event, and somebody came up afterwards and said, I'm lonely and I don't know what to do next. And I said, can I be honest with you? And she said, yeah. And I said, I can tell by the way you just asked that question, you don't like you. And then we had a human moment. And I thought, oh no, we may not be able to come, we had a real human moment there.
Yeah.
It's two easy things, man. No, I just made that up. 2 simple things that are incredibly hard.
They're not easy.
Hard. One is you have to look in the mirror and say, I'm worthy of relationships. I'm worthy of being loved. I'm worthy of being connected to. And I don't care if you're a Navy SEAL. I don't care if you are a Wyoming cowboy, or if you're a single mom with 3 kids and you don't even know what day it is. You're so exhausted from all the work you're doing. You're worthy of having people in your life. And if you don't think that, you're never going to do the next step, which is you just got to risk. Esther Perel says, like, all relationship is a risk, 100% of them. You've been married for 40 years and you say, hey, your gas is killing me now. I don't know what has happened to your body, but it's a risk because you don't know what's going to come back the other way. Or if you just met somebody and you're meeting for the first time in person, it's all a risk and you're worth the risk. And so I tell people, go first. And listen, we take stuff. I might invite you guys over to my house and y'all like, hey, we can't make it. 99.9% of the time, that's about y'all, not me.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is about me, then I'm going to have a group of people that's like, hey, I keep inviting people out and they don't want to be around me. And they'd be like, well, yeah, dude, because you're weird, or your house is disgusting, or you always want to have weird sex talk games that you're like, whatever's happening, like you're not fun to be around.
Yeah.
And I've had a few hard conversations. My friends have told me that in the past. And so I am going to assume if y'all can't make it, that's a decision y'all are making. I'm not going to take it personal. And then I'm going to go risk again. And I'm going to go risk again. And I'm going to go risk again. I'm going to keep getting back up, keep getting back up. And eventually you're going to have your gang, whether it's 1 person or 3 people or 4 people, and you're going to be your own little weird tribe. And that's awesome. And you're going to move along together.
Mm-hmm.
I love that so much. And it makes me think of this idea. We do this in coaching a lot, where I say to people, if I could snap my fingers and you could have the life that you want, whether that's I'm healed from my trauma, or I have all these new friends, or I finally learned how to sail a ship, or whatever it is that they're trying to do.
Sail a ship?
Some people want to sail. Don't you dare.
You're talking to Captain.
Sail away, sail away, sail away.
But it's this idea that, like, if you could snap your fingers and plop yourself into that world that you want to have happen for you, then all you got to do is work backwards and go.
It's reverse engineer. That's exactly right.
If I want to sail a ship, I need to go to sailing school.
You mentioned something important. when it comes to trauma. We've developed this really bizarre thing the last 15 or 20 years. And I say that because I've only been in this 15 or 20 years, so it may have been happening for eternity. But we've got into this bizarre reverse trauma comparison game where, hey, COVID happened and I lost my job, which we know the literature tells us that that's as devastating as losing a partner, right? Is job loss. To our biochemists, our biochemistry knows we are in danger. We're going to starve to death, right? It's a cascade. And we go, yeah, but let's wallpaper over it because Susan's husband's sick. And then you talk to Susan and she's like, yeah, he's really sick, 2 weeks. And we didn't think he was going to make it, but he didn't go to the hospital, right? And we have this compression of our trauma. Like we're afraid to own it. Like there's a sum zero game on pain. There's only so much pain that can be doled out at one time. And I don't want to take any of theirs. We got to stop. You have to acknowledge your trauma and you got to call it out. And if you wreck your Pinto and that's the only way you have to get to work and now you're not going to be able to work, that's heartbreaking. You got to grieve that. And if you wreck your Lexus, you grieve it too, man. You're not helping anybody by not owning that too.
Right.
And so I don't care how small your traumas are, how big they are, how catastrophic they are, how they added up over time. They were little, but they just kept adding up on you and adding up on you. You got to own all of it. And judging trauma, comparing trauma is a fool's errand, man. Don't do that. Just own your reality.
I love that. And I'm going to sort of share a little thing or a big thing that's going on in our life currently. This December, my brother died. And it was a huge,
I'm so sorry, Delony.
Thank you. It was a huge, surprise for everybody. It was a completely shocking event. And, and in that journey, it's been really hard because, watching my mother lose her oldest son, right? So I'm walking through this journey with my family in a totally different way. And we actually ended up doing his service. Like we ran it all and booked everything and because we could show up for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I've been challenging myself to do in this very particular season is how can I show up differently for people's grief? Because grief is so hard and people don't know how to grieve well. Most of us, like you're saying, just shove it down, just get past it, wallpaper over it. At least it wasn't this, or at least we got that, or, you try to pat it and it doesn't work. And as you were saying that, I kept thinking, and I've said this in the past, but it has sort of come to light even more in this particular season, that I feel like, and I'm going to say God, but insert whatever thing you think of, but it's like God gives you a certain amount of tears for whatever trauma you're in or whatever thing you're walking through. And if you don't cry them and you don't get it out, they're just still there. It's almost like you're damming something and you're like trying to hold up this ocean of water. It's still there. Like the body keeps the score, right? Gabor mate.
Right. Yeah.
No, it's
yerba mate.
That's a Vander Kolk. Yeah.
But it's that idea that you're not doing yourself any favors by holding this wall of water back and slowly trickling it out over time. Release that. Again, whether it's you've crashed your Lexus or your Pinto, it doesn't matter the scale or the size or whatever.
Right.
It lives within you regardless. And so
that's right.
It really does show me though, like I was saying, that people really don't know how to grieve. They don't know what to grieve sometimes. Like you can grieve a death. Like we go, oh, that one's acceptable. But can you grieve the fact that you thought your spouse was one way and they aren't that way?
Right.
And even if you stay married and you're like, oh, I'm going to work through this, but that's a loss. I thought I thought my spouse loved adventure and we thought we were going to travel the world. And then she ended up getting cancer and got her leg amputated and she's whatever. That's grief. Grieve that. Mourn that.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're walking around with this gigantic reservoir of water. Yeah. And it's pushing against you on all sides. And you're just barely, I remember trying to hold back tears at some thing years ago when my friend died. And that was when I realized I can't do this. I actually can't live this way. So what if I just let myself grieve and be kind to myself in any form of grief that is, showing up. And it goes so much, and I would say this kindly, it goes so much faster. I don't mean that in an unkind way or like a grief should be quick.
Well, no, you process through it and it's like, okay, it's a journey, right? And I can either stop 1,000 times and, each stop is like 1 year long and no, I'm never end up there. Or like, okay, I'm going to take this slow. I'm going to go. I'm going to keep on going and process that grief. But
hold on one more thing. The grief that's in that big thing, the cistern of water or whatever, it stagnates. You need to let it go through you. Like let it go,
So there's a chapter called Grief in the book. I think it's called Good Grief. And it's about it's how important that is. And there's actually a section on our relationship with death. Mm-hmm. And even as early as the 1920s, I have to go back and look at the exact date, but 1920s, churches and homes, we had a room in our house called the parlor. Right. And is it the Ladies' Home Journal? One of these journals just said, it's no longer the parlor. It's now the living room. And we all have living rooms now. And we used to sit up with the dead. We couldn't outsource it.
Right.
And now we don't kill our food. We get 3 days off and you got to get back to work. And if you're an hourly worker, well, your grief costs you something, right? I mean, we don't have any sort of cultural ecosystem or support for grief, for passing over. And man, I think it's a critical moment. I talked to a dad on the radio the other day. Of all the guts and brains and wild stuff, this is the call that has haunted me. He's an engineer making six figures in Houston, got several kids, and he has a special needs kid. And he's walking through how much it hurt. And he finally just said, can I just tell you, I wish I could just get cancer so this thing can be done. And I said, you got to tell your wife. And he said, I can't burden her with all of this. And Melanie, what you said is so beautiful. We have to understand that the energy we're using to hold that cistern back is also wearing out everybody around us. It's electrifying our kids. It's melting our marriages. And so we think we're doing a service to those around us by holding all that crap in. We're drowning them in that cistern. Right. And so even if you have those dark moments where I don't think I'm worth dealing with this stuff, the people around you are, right? And man, we've got to grieve. We've got to deal with that hard stuff. And it ends up being a great gift when you can tell somebody, hey, I need you to walk alongside me.
Right. Yeah. And I'm going to say one more point on that is that often I find that if I keep just ruminating and thinking about something and rolling it around in my head, it never goes away, right? It's not like going to go, oh, I thought about it 8 times, I'm done, right? It just comes back and comes back. So if you are in a process of grieving or thinking you need to grieve, maybe you've not done it well, write this stuff out, journal it, get it out of your head. There's a magic thing that can happen when you just get the thoughts into sentences. Like you're saying, that guy on the call saying, I just wish I could get cancer. So it would all be done. Get that on a page. You don't need to show it to anybody.
Get it out of you.
Your head. Yeah.
Have you all heard of the David Kessler's Purple Elephant? We talked about that.
I don't know.
So Kessler wrote the greatest book on grief ever. It's called Finding Meaning. I think everybody should read it. But he's got a great exercise when he was working with parents who'd lost a kid and they cannot get their kid in the hospital. They can't get that kid in the casket. They can't get that picture out of their head. And he comes to them and says, all right, I want everybody in this room to close your eyes and think of a purple elephant. And it's like a yellow hat on the purple, whatever. And they all do it. And he says, open your eyes. You just proved it to yourselves that you can control your thoughts. You can't control the lightning bolts, but the moment that lightning bolt comes in, you have a choice. Am I going to meditate on this thing and let it take me down? Or am I going to replace it with another thought? And so if you had a spouse that cheated on you and y'all have reconciled and you're back in it, there will come a moment when you're just mowing the lawn and all of a sudden that picture snaps into your head. And that's the moment you have to choose right there. And if you will choose and practice over time, or that picture, you will think of something with your brother and your whole body goes, whoosh, we're back in this. And that's that moment. I'm going to remember a time that we were laughing so hard, milk came out our nose and we couldn't breathe, right? I'm going to remember that. I'm going to choose that memory and I'm going to focus and meditate on that memory. And over time, your body will begin to self-correct and it will pull those memories out because those are the ones that we focus on. And we have to continue to practice controlling our thoughts, but it can be done.
Right. I love that. And I think
awesome.
Saying some of it out loud is really helpful. Like,
grief demands a witness. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Like if, if someone's walking through an affair or whatever, like you have that, oh my gosh, I'm mowing the lawn and I remember this thing, say to yourself, that doesn't serve me. That's not helpful. Be your own.
Not helpful.
Talk back to your thoughts,
Yeah.
But this is amazing. I could talk.
No,
was that really
great.
an invite to your house? We'll be there later.
Dude, I would love for y'all to come over.
Stuff.
Hey, oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. Listen. So I read a remarkable book. I wish I was mowing the lawn. Seth, you inspired me. I got me a riding lawnmower. It's incredible.
Oh,
I was mowing and I was listening to a book and I thought it was just a flyby book. And it's short. It's called Chatter by Ethan Kross. Have y'all heard of this?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
So here's one of the things that's phenomenal. He studies the voice in our head that just loops over and over again. And here's a trick he passed along in that book. And it's one that, again, I'm jaded and grizzled at this point. And I rolled my eyes and I started practicing. And I was like, no way. I hate it when researchers are right, which is often.
Right.
Here's what he said. He said, we have different pathways in our head for I and me and we. That's our fight or flight circuit. And we have a different pathway for they and them. It's why I have a show where people all over the world will call me and ask me questions about their relationships. And then I'll go home and talk to my wife and be like, I don't know what to say to you, right? But if you call me and ask me about your marriage, I'm great. Because my marriage sets off my fight or flight, which we all know shuts off critical thinking. And now I'm just on defense. And so a quick hack was, and I hate the word hack. So I'm going to take that back, edit that out. I hate the word hack. A quick thing that you can do, a tool, is to say, John, that is not helping us. And when I talk to John in the third person, this is from a neurological researcher. When I talk to John in the third person, or I ask, hey, John, is this thought helping us? Is this helping my marriage? You will go, no, not helping at all.
Right.
But if I say, I get so pissed off. I remember that picture. I remember her with him. And I start, dude, now my body's off to the races, man.
Yes.
And then she walks out with iced tea. Like, hey, you want something to drink? And I'm like, why don't you take that iced tea? Right? Not helping anything. But if I will talk to myself in the third person, if I will journal to myself in the third person, even he brought up, that's why, and I never thought, I always rolled my eyes when athletes would say, me and my family were doing this. But on the court, LeBron's got to do what LeBron's got to do. And I used to think, oh my gosh, you're talking about yourself in the third person. Sports psychologists know you have to be somebody different on that court than you are in your living room, because that person will crush your family. And so you end up saying, no, I'm going to distance myself from that guy. I'm going to be that guy over there. So anyway, that thought was, I just want to pass it along. It was revolutionary for me.
So all the episodes of Seinfeld are on Netflix now, by the way. And we just watched that episode. I don't know if you watched Seinfeld, but there's this one episode where Jerry and George are in the gym and they're playing basketball with this guy named Jimmy. Yeah. And he only talks to him. He's like, Jimmy's gonna score. Jimmy's so
That's right. Right.
I love it, dude. Like, and they start hating it and stuff like that. But I love that. And the power of our brain. This is what got me literally into psychology in the 10th grade in the first place. And my career as a psychotherapist. We have the power. Like in my brain, they're like different, not personalities, because it's not like, pathological personality disorder or anything like that. But the fact that we can talk to ourselves like, hey, Seth, you got this. Seth, you're going to do good on that. Seth, you are worth it. All this stuff. And we are going to do it. It's like separate compartmentalizations that I just find so fascinating, because I'm not talking to anybody else except myself. But is it me talking to me, or is it the other me talking to me? And it's just trippy.
Which me is talking to
I know, and it's so powerful. So I love it. And so I want to be respectful of your time. We kind of got to like points 4 and 5, change your thoughts, change your actions.
It doesn't matter. Huge. Just go get his book. And the fact that you're doing an audiobook, I could not be happier. I don't like to read anything. I'm not good at it. But watching you narrate that, I was so excited. I can't wait.
Oh, they were. I didn't realize how many videos they were taking of me. They said it was hilarious. I can't talk without my hands.
I can't either. That was actually the first thing I was like, he does it too.
No, I can't help it.
Narrate things. I'm like,
it's the mind-body connection.
I love it. I love it.
So, John, tell people where they can pre-order the book and where to find all your stuff and where you want them to go.
So, cool thing. During pre-order, BetterHelp stepped up in a way that's unbelievable, and they're giving away a free month of counseling to anybody who pre-orders this book.
Awesome.
Nice.
And so I couldn't believe they came through with that. But if you read it and you think, I need to talk to somebody, I was nervous to leave. I was apprehensive about leaving somebody with what I do now. And now they said, we'll step up and give you a phone number to call. So that's awesome. And there's a bunch of the audiobook, all that stuff comes with it. You can pre-order it and you go to johndelony.com and it'll be there to pre-order. Or you can find me on the interwebs on Instagram and stuff. And you can pre-order it from there too.
Awesome. Well, one question I usually ask all of our guests. I know I asked you last time you're on, but what is one thing that's just bringing you super jazz right now? I don't care what it is. And you can't say the book because I know we know it's the book. Dude, I know you're excited.
Dude, no, man.
You probably don't. You're like, I don't want to see it again ever.
Yeah, I mean, it is a painful process too. I used to look at people because I wrote in academics all the time. When you're a nerd, you're a professional writer, which you are. And I used to write all the time. Man, why is there such drama? Write a book. It's not that hard. Dude, it's harder than I thought, man. Wow. I really feel like I told a great story, and then you get a couple of editors and they're like, "You're kind of an idiot. We don't know what you're talking about. You need to say it again. Say it clearer. Say it clear."
Right.
What's something I'm really jazzed about right now? Like, this is me being honest. So writing this book, I went through some stuff, back through some stories that I had not dealt with in a long, long time. And there were seasons when I would be writing and I was raged. I was angry. My wife, like, what is wrong with you? And I was revisiting some stories that in my life that I thought I'd healed from. I hadn't, man. I just passed over them. And so something that's got me jazzed right now is it's really a season of reclamation for me. And it's easy to to get on a podcast or get on a radio show and talk to people about how they should be living their lives. But man, you got to take your own advice and you got to live all of it. And so I've going back and healing from some of this stuff, just learning to walk lighter again. Weight's falling off my body. I'm laughing a lot more. And so that's really got me jazzed up. And a lot of that comes from, man, this stuff doesn't matter. My kids matter. Having a good marriage matters. My friends matter. And so plugging back into some of those things makes this stuff better. But that's really got me fired up right now. And dude, once the book was over, I got my guitar back out and plugged in. And now it's back to metal time and it's going to be good.
Nice.
And with the biggest amp ever, the amp that touches your ceiling.
I have a really low self-esteem amp, that's for sure. Definitely compensating amp. It's awesome.
In our studio, I have my old set of DW drums just like right there, ready to go anytime. So sometimes I just come out here.
You never know when Lars is going to twist an ankle and they're going to call you and be like, "Seth, we need you." You're like, "I got you."
That's funny.
I got you.
That's fun, man. I used to have stress dreams about that. After I quit the band, I was like, "Oh man, I can't do that." But John, thank you so much, my man.
I'm grateful for y'all too. Thank you for putting good stuff out in the world.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure.
You guys
go get his book.
Go get the book. Go check out his stuff, and
call you two guys for coaching.
Yes, yes, that's right. All right, my man.
Thanks.
So love
much.
it.
Thanks, bud.
Love you guys.
Right.
See ya,
man.
Guys, for real, how did you like that conversation? Did you like it?
Yes, it's the best. He's the best.
Yeah, he's pretty chill. He's a Southern dude, just like me, and it's always fun to talk to other Southern guys who are also in mental health. So, you guys, we hope that you got value from that. If you have any questions, connect with him. You can go on the show, the Dr. John Delony Show, for crying out loud. Call in. He'll answer your questions. He's a solid guy. You will get help from him. So, if you want any more of this stuff, check out other episodes that we have. We hope that it helped you, and we love you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.